Follow along, Catholic Pilgrims, as we follow French doctor of the Church, St. Francis de Sales, through his book, Introduction to the Devout Life. Tune in as we read through this practical guide for living out the Catholic faith well. Hello, Catholic Pilgrims. Thank you for joining along today. There are 5 people in my family, and I am the only one with a melancholic personality that manifests itself sometimes. My oldest daughter barely lets anything get her down. My middle finds a way to keep smiling through adversity, and my son can turn a frown into a smile pretty quickly. And my husband rarely, if ever, lets sadness overtake him. And then there's me. It's not as if my other family members don't get sad. They do. They just have been trained by their father to not wallow in sadness. They don't let sadness overtake their lives, and because they don't really struggle with the anxiety that so many face. They are aware of bad things. They aren't utterly sheltered. They don't live fakely happy lives all the time. But they do know how to manage sadness well. It's impressive. And through their witnesses, I have gotten better over the years. Last time, St. Francis talked to us about anxiety. And if we are anxious about all the bad things that we can't fix, or impatient over the good things that we want to happen, we will grow sad. Let's hear what he has to say by turning to chapter 12 of the 4th part. Chapter 12, Sadness. The sorrow that is according to God, saith St. Paul, worketh penance steadfast unto salvation, but the sorrow of the world worketh death. Therefore, sorrow may be either good or bad according to its results upon us. Undoubtedly, there are more bad than good results from it. For the good results are but 2, namely penitence and mercy, whilst there are 6 evil results: anguish, indolence, indignation, jealousy, envy, and impatience. Wherefore the wise man said, sadness hath killed many, and there is no profit in it, since from its source spring but 2 good and 6 evil rivers. It is only towards the good that the enemy employs sorrow as a temptation, for inasmuch as he seeks to make sinners take delight in their sin, so he seeks to make good works grievous to the good. And as he can only lead the one to evil by making it seem agreeable, so can he only deter the other from what is good by making it seem disagreeable. Satan delights in sadness and melancholy, since he himself is sad and melancholy, and will be so to all eternity, a condition which he would have all to share with him. Unholy sorrow disturbs the soul, disquiets her, arouses vain fears, disgusts her with prayer, overpowers the brain and makes it drowsy, deprives the soul of wisdom, resolution, judgment, and courage, and crushes her strength. In short, it resembles a hard winter, which withers the beauty of the earth and numbs all life, for it deprives the soul of all suppleness, rendering all her faculties of no avail and powerless. If you are ever assailed by this hurtful sadness, adopt the following remedies. Is any among you sad? Says St. James. Let him pray. Prayer is a sovereign remedy, for it raises the soul to God, who is our only joy and consolation. But in prayer, let your emotions and words, whether inward or outward, conduce to trust and love of God, such as, O God of pity, merciful and good God, loving Savior, God of my heart, my joy, my hope, my beloved spouse, beloved of my soul, and such as these. Vigorously check the inclination to sadness, and although you seem to do everything coldly, sadly, and without fervor, go on all the same. For the enemy would fain enfeeble our good works by sadness, and when he finds that we will not discontinue them, and that they are but the more meritorious through resistance, he will cease to annoy us. Refresh yourself with spiritual songs, which have often caused the tempter to cease his wiles, as in the case of Saul, whose evil spirit departed from him when David played upon his harp before the king. It is also useful to be actively employed, and that with as much variety as may be, so as to divert the mind from the cause of its sadness, and to purify and enliven the mind, for sadness is a cold, withering passion. Also make use of outward acts of fervor, even though you have no delight in them, such as embracing the crucifix, pressing it to your heart, kissing the hands and feet hanging thereon, raising your eyes and your hands to heaven, and calling upon God with words of love and reliance, such as, "My beloved is mine, and I am his. A bundle of myrrh is my beloved to me, a cluster of myrrh my love. My eyes have failed for thy words, saying, when wilt thou comfort me? O God, thou art my God. My soul thirsteth for thee, and it shall be filled. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ?" And so forth. The discipline in moderation is useful in overcoming sadness because this voluntary external affliction produces internal consolation, and the soul experiencing outward pain is distracted from that which is within. Frequent communion is an excellent remedy, for that heavenly food strengthens the heart and gladdens the spirit. Make known to your confessor and guide all the emotions, cares, and suggestions which spring from your sadness, with faithfulness and humility. Seek the society of devout persons as much as is practicable, and above all resign yourself into God's hands, disposing yourself to suffer your grievous sadness with patience, as the fitting punishment for your vain joys. And never doubt that when God has sufficiently tried you, He will set you free from this trial. St. Francis says, quote, "Therefore, sorrow may be either good or bad according to its results upon us. Undoubtedly, there are more bad than good results from it, for the good results are but two, namely penitence and mercy, whilst there are 6 evil results: anguish, indolence, indignation, jealousy, envy, and impatience." Unquote. After having 2 beautiful daughters, my husband and I suffered through our first miscarriage. It was a time of great sadness for both of us, as you would expect. If I wasn't sad, that would be extremely callous of me. Then we suffered through another one, and another one, and another one. The more miscarriages that we went through, the more sad my heart became. And one of the results of this was a jealousy grew in my heart. Whenever I saw a pregnant woman or heard of someone I knew having a baby, I became jealous. Through miscarriages 5, 6, 7, and 8, I became distraught. I was in deep anguish, and my heart was deeply sad. It seems ridiculous to say that I should have been happy during this time of losing 8 babies. But during these miscarriages, each time I would get pregnant, I would quickly fall into a deeper sadness, sure of what awaited me. I was indignant with God and could not understand why He was making our family suffer through all of this. And after losing our 8th child, my husband and I talked about, do we keep trying? How much can my heart and mind take, was my continual question. We decided to try one more time, but my husband said, "This time though, we will be different. If you get pregnant, we will be happy and not sad. We are not going to white knuckle our way through this." So I got pregnant, and when I showed my husband the pregnancy test, we hugged and smiled, and it felt good to welcome a baby with happiness rather than sadness. Even though we both were still a bit nervous, neither one of us felt as anxious as before. 9 months later, we welcomed our son. We lost 2 more babies after our son, and so in total, we have 10 saints in heaven. And there was a time in my life when the thought of that number sent a wave of sadness over me that was consuming. And to be sure, it still makes me sad at times. How could it not? 10 children that I have never met is a lot to digest. However, like with everything, if we give our pain to Christ and ask Him to heal us, He will. He will never not make good on that promise. I didn't want to go around depressingly sad all the time about losing 10 children, and I needed to find happiness over their lives. And with God's help, I did find that. When I think of my 10 children now, I do smile. They are my saints in heaven, powerful intercessors that I rely on for their prayers. I invite them to be with me at every Mass that I go to, and I know that they do. The thought of them enjoying heaven gives me happiness, and I look forward to meeting them one day. And I assure you, this isn't a fake happiness where I am just trying to trick myself into being happy. No, it's a gentle happiness that is filled with peace. Whatever is causing you sadness, Catholic pilgrims, hand that over to God. He wants to help you with it. I promise. That is all for today. Don't forget to come back next time. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.